Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'll be ranking all the VHS survivor perks in the game, so let's get right to it. There's going to be 4 categories. We have needs nerf, meta, supporting perks, needs buff, or not viable. I want to preface this by saying this is obviously my opinion. I have about 300 hours in the beta currently. A lot of players and streamers know me, think they would agree towards my opinion as someone who appreciates the game, has a very good understanding of the core mechanics and the functionality of these perks. The perk system in VHS is unique in that there's actually a point system behind them. What that basically means in a nutshell, you need to select your loadout and make a build towards your character that is very much suited for your playstyle or a certain build. Essentially, you cannot stack 5 of the best perks in the game and call it a day. That is not something you can do in VHS. It is actually very well thought out. I have no complaints with the point system in this game, and I actually think it's very beneficial that VHS has a very healthy perk selection system. Really prevents unbalance in the game. Obviously, with how advanced the perk system is, you not only need to take into consideration the perk itself, effect at each tier, and the point cost at each tier. It's obviously going to be very, very complex. And there's going to be a lot of arguments saying, oh, this tier perk is better than this tier, or you could run this tier over this tier. Honestly, I'm going into this with completely only ranking the quality of the perk. I'm going to disregard points for now. I'm just going to look at the overall use of the perk itself and how it changes. So we're going to start off with Friendzone. If you have not played, we're going over what each perk does. We have Friendzone 3. That is obviously going in the supporting perk. You can take a look here. Friendzone, while within X meters of another team, their aura is visible to you. This is basically a way to gain information on your teammates without having to actually communicate. Sometimes, even then, communicating with your teammates, there can be a sort of confusion. Friendzone will exponentially help you set up, help you coordinate your teammate. It's very low costing, which is actually insane. It's very much a supporting perk. There's nothing more else to say about it. It's amazing. Next, we have Lightning Fast 3. That is obviously going into the meta. Now, what Lightning Fast does is the duration of the speed boost gained after being injured by the monster is increased by X%. At the maximum tier, it costs 10 points, and each tier downward from that costs 2 less. The entire point of Lightning Fast is to be able to create a greater gap between you and the monster after getting hit. The more distance you have on the monster, or the closer you are as a monster to a team, the more dangerous it is. So the more distance you have, the more safe you are from the monsters. Next, we have Team Spirit, and that is going into the needs a buff. If a team is within 10 meters of you, provide them with a X% increase in speed of which they perform a healing, reviving, resurrecting, or disarming action. This bonus does not stack with other users of this perk. At max points, it costs 12. Each downgrading tier, it costs 3 less points to equip. The reason why Team Spirit is in the needs buff / not viable. For one, only one person can run this perk. Okay, that one person, obviously you want to get the most out of this perk, so you're going to be running tier 3 to get that 12%. I feel that the percentage is way too low for the amount of points it costs. If you don't know, you're allowed 30 points for 5 perks. If you take a look at the points that this one singular perk costs, it's 12 points. If you want to round it up to 15, that is half your perk points gone just by one perk. The amount of percentage that you're actually increasing, gaining, or using this perk is not substantial to the amount of points that you're using. I would love to see this perk have a decrease in points, or you can just basically increase the value. So this way you make it so it's worth running, worth spending half your points, half your build on this one perk. Next, we got Brett. We have Born Tough 3 that is going right into the meta. You can technically argue this perk needs a nerf, but I'm just gonna say it's meta for now. So Born Tough increases your maximum life, your overall health in the game, by X%. At max tier 3, it costs 12 points. Each downgrading tier requires 4 points less. Born Tough is very, very unique in the fact that you don't really have to do anything to gain the perk. You just equip the perk and it's in effect. People will argue that it needs a nerf, because a lot of people have compared its functionality to Lethal Weapon, where you don't really have to really do anything. There's no conditioning that needs to be met. You kind of just equip the perk and it functions. Your overall health determines whether or not you live or die. Just increasing the amount of hits it takes to get you down or to get you dead in general is just very, very good. It's very meta. I can honestly put it in needs nerf. I kind of do agree. It's a very gray area between it needs a nerf, it's fine, but overall, it's a very, very strong perk. Next, we have Never Say Die. I'm gonna put this into a supporting perk. I really thought out all the tiers of these categories. I originally was going to make the supporting perks category a unexplored or potential category where not a lot of people have ran them, so we don't know the extent or the maximum potential that the perk can be. But I evidently decided to rename this tier a supporting perk. What Never Say Die does is the rate at which you lose life while prone or while you're downed as a teen is reduced by X%. At a maximum tier, it costs 9 points to run, and each previous tier costs 3 points less to run. The more health you have overall, the better, and this perk just makes it so that you bleed out a lot slower, retaining that health that you would have lost if you don't have this perk. It has a lot of potential, not a lot of people have run it, but I think it's a pretty nice supporting perk. I don't think it needs a buff. Next, we have Vice Grip. I am putting Vice Grip in needs a nerf. So what Vice Grip does is once per match, if you're knocked prone or down while you have weapon equipped, you will not lose it. This perk only becomes active after a certain amount of people have died. It scales accordingly to the tier of the perk. So if you're running a tier 3, this perk activates right away, and etc, etc, etc. At the highest tier, it costs 11 points to run. This perk, Vice Grip, oh boy. A lot of people have already been complaining, saying that it's way too strong. Others have argued that it's great where it is. The only thing I can say about Vice Grip, it's good. I think it's healthy for the game. However, I think it does need a nerf. Everybody, and I mean everybody, in the game will be running Vice Grip. The simple fact you're able to save your weapon upon going down is humongous. You have to understand that having a weapon in this game is one of the main components to fighting the monster. For example, if you get caught off guard, or if you make a weapon that isn't as strong or isn't as self-sustaining, you can go down with it and not have to craft it again. That is one of the reasons why it is very, very strong. I will provide my own personal nerf to it in that this weapon does not have a condition, and I want to give this weapon a condition. Vice Grip activates after you've already crafted a weapon and have either used it on the monster, like deplete it fully, or go down with the weapon. Now, obviously you can't discard the weapon. My version of Vice Grip would make it so that you are not given that free Vice Grip off the start. Vice Grip would activate after that first weapon you crafted. And that's my version of Vice Grip. I personally brought it to other people, and they personally agree. I think it's the strongest perk in the game. It doesn't even come anywhere near lethal weapon in terms of use. But yeah, that is all of Brett's perks. Let's go on right to Jess. So we have Evil Eye 3. That is going right into the supporting perks. Now, Evil Eye, depending on the tier that you're running it at, does different things. At tier 1, the monster's aura will be visible to you for 2.5 seconds after transforming. Tier 2, on top of tier 1, you get, while the monster is disintegrating, you get an aura of it. And at maximum tier 3, the monster's aura will be visible to you for 3.5 seconds after transforming, while disintegrating, and after suffering a wound, and while stunned. Most people run this perk at tier 1. I've rarely seen anybody run the higher form version, maybe at Evil Eye 2, because it only costs 1 more point, but I've never seen anyone actually run Evil Eye 3. It gives you the information on who the monster is, and it gives you the location of the monster's transformation at the start of the game. It's a very meta perk. I see a lot of people run it, but I'm going to put it in supporting perk simply because being able to tell who the monster is and where the monster spawns at the beginning of the game is very, very strong. But besides that, it literally does nothing else. Moving on to the next one, we have Low Profile 3. That is going into the meta. Now, what low profile does is it increases your movement speed while crouched by X%. At the maximum tier, it costs 12 points, and each previous tier costs 4 less points to run. I might get some weird looks putting low profile at meta. I think a lot of players, once they start exploring low profile, will agree with me in that it is a very good striker perk. Now, what I mean by striker is, if you haven't already figured out, there is kind of 2 roles in VHS: the people who get the stigma and the people who help the people who get the stigma, if that makes any sense. And as the person who gets the stigmas, being able to position yourself quietly without giving information to the monster is very, very strong. Multiple times I've been caught off guard by people with low profile simply because I didn't hear them. Sound is a very crucial part of VHS, and being able to reposition yourself quietly without giving information to where you are is very, very strong, especially if you are a striker, as I said. For the purpose of this, I think I will be putting it in the meta category. If you're a striker, you know low profile is an amazing perk. Next, we have Silent Shadows, which no surprise to anybody, I am putting in the needs buff or not viable. And what Silent Shadow does is makes it so that failing crafting skill checks have a X% chance of making no noise and not alerting the monster. The highest tier, it costs 8 points to run. Each following tier, I believe, 2 points. So that's a jump to tier 3. The amount of points that it costs does not balance the actual benefit of the perk. Silent Shadows is not really worth it considering you won't really miss skill checks that often. This perk currently at its state is not viable at its cost. Now we run into our beloved Leo perks. I'm literally putting them all in support perks. Leo is very unique in the fact that he's a very user-friendly character to pick up for newer players in the game. Head trip. While controlling a Spectral, you will now see the aura of Luma within X meters of you, and the movement speed of the Spectral is increased by X% per tier. Being able to gain Luma faster while you're down and maybe perhaps getting picked up faster is something that needs to be explored. Currently, I'm just going to put in supporting perks. I'm just going to play it safe. Very nice, comfy perk. Quick Flick increases the speed at which you can heal yourself at a medkit station by X%. And while injured, you can see the aura of the medkit station by X%. Sorry, I'm going to put Quick Fix at needs a buff. My thing with Quick Fix is that this second part of the perk, they can easily remove this and just make it so Quick Fix does only the first part. Once you learn where the healing stations are, they're there. They're not moving. So this second half of the perk shouldn't exist. The only reason it exists, I believe, is for new players. And at 8 points at the maximum tier for 14%, I think that's a little bit too low. You round it up to 10. That's 1/3 of your build, 1/3 of your points for only 14%. The benefit is not enough to balance off the points that it costs. So personally, I think Quick Fix needs a buff. And the last perk we have Street Smart. You can see the aura of pickups and most searchable objects within X meters according to the tier of the perk. Street Smart is fine completely. It's a supporting perk. Soda cans and candy bars are indeed a very crucial part of the game for the team. So being able to find more searchable objects in the game, it just means that your team gets to stay alive more. So I'm definitely putting in supporting perks. Now we have the last character, Faith. Let's go over the perk. Secret Admirer. I am putting that in a needs buff and not a viable. When a teen is injured, their aura becomes visible to you for the next X seconds. At the highest tier, it costs 8 points to run, and each previous tier requires 2 less points. Why would you run Secret Admirer when Friendzone exists, right? Friendzone costs just as much as Secret Admirer. If you want aura reading, you should just run Friendzone instead. Next, we have Healing Hands. I will be putting Healing Hands at meta. Increases the speed at which you perform healing on others by X%. At the maximum tier, it costs 24% and 9 points. Each previous tier costs 3 points less. You get to heal others faster just by having this perk equipped. Health states, it is very important how fast you can heal somebody. If you can heal somebody faster than usual, that is generally a very good thing. Costs pretty low too. I mean, you're looking at 9 points, 1/3 of your total perk costs. With discounts, it's pretty good value. The last perk here, Magic Touch. I'm actually going to be putting that in meta as well. It increases the speed at which you revive prone or downed teen by X%. This second part is the reason why Magic Touch is so good. The revive teen also gains X% of their total base life back upon being picked up. At the highest tier, it costs 9 points, and each previous tier costs 3 less points to run. In a game where overall health that determines whether or not you are in or out of this is very important. Magic Touch gives you % of your life back after being down. I mean, you are going to get down. Nobody's a god of this game. Nobody's so amazing that they never go down. If you run this, you give a percentage of the health that they lost back while also being able to pick them up X% faster, which is insane, actually. I think this perk is actually one of the most overlooked perks in the game. These are all the team perks ranked, in my opinion, based on their use. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I hope y'all found this useful and maybe perhaps change your perspective on some of these perks, or perhaps even try out some of these perks. That will be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see y'all later.